Yo, 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 it's Alex like Geology, and today we're coming in with a straight banger, showcasing a geological timescale that I made myself, including several important eons, eras, and cool events that happened over Earth's lifetime. Let's go! Alright, so starting off, I made this cool little universe simulation, you know what I'm saying? Each of these are little stars, you know what I'm saying? Earth is orbiting a star. That's pretty cool. So anyways, let's get into it. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. That's pretty old, honestly. So yeah, and then go down to find out more. What? Okay, okay. This is pretty cool, but I gotta see the timeline. So, ah oh oh ah oh. Okay, I wasn't that bad. Anyways, straight into it. The scale, for reference, one block is 1 million years in real time. All right, so this is, like that's a million years right there. That's 2 million years. That's a lot. So pretty big scale over here. And then I included like the overarching eon. Right now, we're just in the Precambrian, and then the like, smaller eon, we're in the Hadean eon of the Precambrian. And then this is the eras and stuff when we get to that. And then I also include that over there. So this is Precambrian, and this is Hadean. You know what I'm saying? Okay, okay. Let's just try. Let's just start right here. Alright, the formation of the Earth. This happened 4.54 billion years ago. Alright. So at this time, Earth looked kind of ugly. I'm not gonna lie. Earth was kind of chopped. It didn't really look that habitable. It's pretty bad looking. But that's because it's pretty new, you know what I'm saying? Just formed from clumped up dust and matter that was orbiting the star, right? And it all clumped together to form this big, like, hot mess. Alright. Anyways, let's get to it, okay? Boom! Alright, first event. Let's go. Alright, this is the formation of the moon, which happened 4.5 billion years ago, alright? This is actually pretty crazy. So about a Mars-sized object, this is actually to scale, by the way, it was about this big compared to Earth. It collided at about like this angle, you know what I'm saying? And this was during its early formation, and then the leftover debris just circled around the Earth and eventually clumped together to form what we now call the moon. Pretty cool, if I do say so myself. And then, next event that happened, pretty far away. Like this is several million years. Like boom. Alright. And this is the age of the oldest mineral, which is at least 3.3 billion years old. This is a beautiful zircon mineral, okay? Pretty cool. Alright. And this is like a sample from Australia, which dates back to the Hadean era. So anyways, this is the oldest rock found on Earth, which is approximately the same, but we're just gonna stick with it. Alright, and this, like the oldest rock, like it varies significantly, but from what I found, like the only one that was like really proven was found in northern Quebec in Hudson Bay, which dates back to the Hadean era, which we're in right now, so that's pretty cool. Alright, let's get into the next one. Alright. Oh, wrong way. Okay, wait, hold on, wrong way. Okay, it's this way. Alright, let's go. Okay, Rumens, this is millions of years are passing as we're going down here. Boom. Alright, next thing. This is the iron catastrophe, which happened 4.1 billion years ago. As you can see, this is pretty cool. And this represents the Earth's core. And this is like all the metal, all the hot metal sank down to form Earth's core. It's spinning a lot, and then it's forming the magnetosphere. All this magnetism going around. This is pretty important, because without the magnetosphere, Earth wouldn't be a very fun place to live. The sun be like killing us with radiation and stuff. Not very fun. Alright, anyways. Next thing. Boom! Alright, now we're finally done with the Hadean eon, and now we're in the Archean eon and the Eo-Archean era. I probably butchered those names, but whatever. Alright, And then this event is the formation of continental crust. This happened about 4 billion years ago. So tectonic forces shaped the Earth so that a large, thick continental crust formed and laid above sea level. Alright, so this pretty cool continental crust right there. Anyways, alright, let's go into the next one. Okay. Boom! Alright, next event. This is the formation of Earth's early oceans. So over time, plate tectonics created areas of the Earth that were significantly lower in elevation, which water vapor, likely from volcanic eruptions, condensed and flowed into, creating distinct ocean areas. Also, meteor collisions had an impact and probably brought some moisture to Earth too, so that's pretty cool. Alright, and then next one. Boom! Over here. Alright, next one is the earliest evidence of life on Earth, which is 3.77 billion years ago. And this is actually an imprint in a graphite mineral, which shows signs of early life in Earth's early oceans. Pretty cool if you ask me. I know millions of years are passing, by the way. This is pretty long, alright? And now we're in the Paleo-Eon and the Archean era. So, okay, we're going over here. More millions of years are passing. Boom! Now we get the age of Earth's oldest fossil, which is 3.5 billion years ago. This is when ancient bacteria leaves a mark in sedimentary rock. This is pretty cool. And this is actually known as stromatolite fossils, which happened in Western Australia. Alright, that's pretty cool. Boom, boom, boom. Alright, now we're gonna go all the way over here. Yeah, I mean, first couple of parts weren't super eventful, if I'm gonna be honest. And now we're in the Meso-Eon in the Archean era. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Okay. Still going, Not a lot happened in the first billion years, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of boring. But, okay, now we're in the Neo-Archean era. Boom. Alright, okay, now some stuff's starting to happen, you know what I'm saying? Boom! I straight up with it. Okay, about the same time. This is when the Great Oxidation event started to occur, alright? And cyanobacteria started to make oxygen in the atmosphere, leading to a dramatic increase in the amount of it. So about a little before this, Earth's kind of sad, it doesn't really have a lot of oxygen. That's kind of depressing. But whatever. And then over time, more oxygen happened. So this little thing represents how long the Great Oxidation event lasts, which is pretty long, honestly. I think it's 500 million years. That's a long time to be creating all this oxygen. Alright, anyways, another event that also happened 2.4 billion years ago about was the first eukaryotic cells. So complex cells with organelles evolved. Not just the boring bacteria. It has other shenanigans going on. Pretty cool. And this paves the way for multicellular life, which is us. So that, pretty cool event right there. Anyways, let's keep going. Alright. Boom. Now we're in the Proterozoic Eon and the Paleo-Proterozoic era. And we're still in the Precambrian. Precambrian's kind of lame, I'm not gonna lie. If I'm being straight up honest. Actually, it's not that lame, but there's cooler things that we're about to see. Boom. Alright. And this is the end of the Great Oxidation event, which is 2.2 billion years ago. And now Earth is all happy. All happy. Earth has a lot of oxygen. Before it was no oxygen. Now it's quite a substantial amount. And now we're gonna go a little farther. Alright. Yeah, see, hundreds of millions of years have passed, by the way. This is a long time. And not a lot has happened. Boom! Now we're in the Mesoproterozoic era. Now we go over here. Boom! Now, finally, about 1.56 billion years ago, we have the first multicellular life. You know, this is cells working together to form like a little organism right here. Pretty cool. I got the nucleus. Awesome. Multicellular life is fire. I cannot lie. Alright, next thing. Boom! Alright, straight into it with the formation of supercontinent Rodinia. Now, this is an underground supercontinent. Most people have heard of Pangaea before, but I bet you did not hear of Rodinia. This is pretty cool. This occurred like several hundred million years. This is the OG right here. Pangaea is the new gen. This is the OG. It also looked kind of gray because there wasn't a whole lot of life on the land, at least. There's life in the oceans, but in the land is kind of boring, to be quite honest. Anyways, let's keep going. Boom! Okay. Now we're in the Neoproterozoic era. That is pretty fire, I cannot lie. Alright, now let's keep going. Oh, there's pigs. Okay. There's not pigs here, by the way. That's not supposed to be there. Anyways, this is the snowball Earth times. This is pretty cool. This happened from 720 to 640 million years ago. And it's not totally certain what happened here, like why this happened, but Earth went through an extreme glacial period where essentially everything was covered in glacier. It was really cold. Honestly, I would like to live during this period. I like snow. But maybe it's a little too much. Maybe a little too much ice and snow. I don't know. Alright, anyways, over here, and yeah, this is when it ended. This ended about like 640 million years ago. Boom. No more snowball Earth. Alright, and then right over here, we have the start of the Indicara fauna. Alright, Indicara fauna. Pretty cool over here, you know what I'm saying? This is some of the large, like the first large multicellular fauna, which kind of looked like this. You know, it's a little ugly. They're kind of flat. You know, look a little tubey, a little strange. But it was the first cool multicellular fauna that's actually interesting to look at. Alright, and this lasted about this long. Alright, so this is when the Indicaria fauna roamed the Earth. So still pretty long, several million years. And now unfortunately they're not here anymore. And anyways, besides that, we're going into the Phanerozoic eon. Finally, something interesting. It's not the Precambrian. No hate to the Precambrian, but I like the Phanerozoic eon a lot better. And also the Paleozoic eon, not that's overarching, but you know what I'm saying? And now we're in the Cambrian era. So that's Precambrian, this is the Cambrian era. Pretty cool. And around this time, the Cambrian explosion of life occurred 540 million years ago. And this is basically just boom. Yeah, lots of squid. Lots of squids. Sorry about that. Anyways, back into it. Okay, we're going on here. Now we're in the Ordovician era. Ordovician, pretty cool. And around this time, about 485 million years ago, is when Earth's first coral reefs occurred. And while stromatolite reefs exist before this is when the first true coral reefs started to appear around Earth. You know, I like coral reefs. Those are pretty cool. Alright, and then over here, about 460 million years ago, we have the first land plant. Now, while it may not look like much, and it's just non-vascular plants at this moment, you know, plants, some green stuff starting to appear on Earth, you know, not bad at all, I will not complain. And over here, boom, now we're in the Silurian era. Okay, and now straight over here, okay, 440 million years ago was the uplift of the Appalachian Mountains. Woo, this is pretty cool. Honestly, two plates colliding two continental plates colliding, by the way, formed like this is the North American plate and the African plate, by the way, which, now they're not connected, but before they were connected, they were mushing, squishing together, and then forming the mountain range, which is now on the eastern coast of the United States. Pretty cool right there. Okay, anyways, now we're going into the Devonian era. I don't know, Devonian sounds kind of cool. I don't know, something about that name is just pretty cool. I like the Devonian era. And then around this time, 400 million years ago, the first land animals appeared on Earth. And these were called tetrapods, which were like the early land animals. They didn't really look like this, but this is like the closest thing in Minecraft I can replicate. They look pretty funky, I'm not gonna lie, but that, pretty cool anyways. And now, boom, we're going into the Carboniferous era, with the Mississippian era being like the little subgenre right there, okay? Boom! About 335 million years ago, the formation of Pangaea occurred. This is the most recent supercontinent where the dinosaurs lived on. You can see, dinosaurs are about to. They don't live on them yet, but they're about to. This is pretty cool over here. I kind of like to say Eurasia. This is approximate, by the way. Africa was kind of here. Antarctica, South America, North America, you know what I'm saying? It looked kind of like that. Don't quote me on this. It looked pretty similar to that, though. Pretty cool, honestly. I like Pangaea. And now we're going into the Pennsylvanian era. Anyways, sorry about that little cut right there. Anyways, now we're in the Permian era. Okay. Permian era, not much happens, but whatever. Boom! Except for one thing. Before we enter the Mesozoic Eon and the Triassic era, a big event occurs at the very end of the Permian era. And this event, you'll see right here, is known as the Great Permian Extinction, which happened 251.9 million years ago. Now, what was the Great Permian Extinction? It was an extreme mass extinction event with huge volcanic eruptions, which wreaked havoc on the atmosphere, which didn't really give a lot of life forms the needed time to adapt. Now, what did this look like? Anyways, now what did this look like? Well, it looks something like that, Okay, personally, I wouldn't really want to be around during the Permian extinction. It wasn't quite like a big wall of lava, but all this lava creating disruptions in the atmosphere. The oceans, I wouldn't really want to live in the oceans at this time, and neither did 95% of all marine life either, because they all died. Okay, anyways, besides the Permian extinction, there was a bright side to the Permian extinction, because while it did kill most of Earth's organisms at the time, it did pave way for the dinosaurs. Let's go. Okay, the time of the dinosaurs. Yep, this is a really cool dinosaur I made right there. This occurred from 250 to 66 million years ago. Alright, time of the dinosaurs. Everybody knows what the dinosaurs are. That's pretty cool right there. Anyways, also during the time of the dinosaurs, we got our first mammal right here, okay? First mammal? That's pretty cool. And while it's debated upon, and some argue Therapacida were the first mammals, their physiology is not very well understood, and I think, personally, that Braziliodons appear to be the closer definition of a mammal who lived 225 million years ago. Pretty cool. First mammals, not humans, obviously. But yeah, that was pretty cool. Anyways, happening just around the Jurassic era began the splitting up of Pangaea and the great and famous supercontinent began to break up around this time, with a huge rift splitting it apart, and over the course of the next 25 million years it would break up into all of these continents, like Africa, South America, North America, Eurasia, Antarctica, and India, which right now is an island, but it's going to go up and become part of Eurasia later, which we will get into. Anyways, Jurassic era, lots of dinosaurs, pretty cool time. And now we're in the Cretaceous era. Okay, Cretaceous era, starting off with the first flowering plants. Wow, the first flowering plants. This occurred about 140 million years ago, which is relatively recent compared to how early like land plants were. Pretty cool. Anyways, boom, 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 boom. Now, starting about 80 million years ago, is the uplift of the Rocky Mountains. Now, the Rocky Mountains, this is pretty interesting, you know what I'm saying? Well, it's worth knowing that the ancient Rocky Mountains are much older, around 285 million years ago, which kind of shaped the geography a bit. 80 million years ago is when the real tectonic nonsense happened and the Rockies uplifted. And why I say it's like weird is because this is actually an oceanic and continental plate colliding, which usually doesn't really form these super big mountains that you see here. There's mountains, don't get me wrong, but like these are some pretty cool ones. And this is what we know as a flat slab subduction, where instead of this plate going like boom, it goes like and then kind of props this one up a bit, because you know North American plate goes up, raises up a bit, that goes there, and then it goes down instead of going straight down and like goes that stuff. Doesn't usually do this. This is pretty cool. I think that is cool at least. Anyways, back at it with, unfortunately, the Cretaceous extinction, which happened 66 million years ago. This killed the dinosaurs. As most people know, we got our T-Rex right here, but we also got a big meteorite, which is about to hit the T-Rex, okay? Big meteorite crashes into the Earth, causes a lot of problems, atmospheric problems. Dinosaurs, unfortunately, don't make it. We have birds, which are related to dinos, but we do not have the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Fortunately, those are gone. Anyways, besides the Cretaceous extinction, not very cool. The age of the accretion of the Siles terrain in western Oregon appeared around this time, about 50 million years ago. And this is when the oceanic crust collided with the North American plate, which you know we saw over there. And now it shapes the geography of Oregon a lot, including the coast, where there's lots of like volcanoes and just like lots of cool stuff happening over there. Alright, and then also it happened about this time, around 50 million years ago, on a different part of the Earth, is India fully collides with Asia about 50 million years ago, right? India was down there, you know, doing its thing as a little island, and it went boom straight into Eurasia, forming the Himalayan mountains. Pretty cool. And you know, India, you know, does like that continental collision. They don't subduct, they just float on top of each other and pile up big rock mounds, which is what you can see as the Himalayan mountains. Pretty cool if you ask me. Anyways, now boom, straight over here, 40 million years ago to 18 million years ago is the age of fossils in the John Day region, which is Central Oregon. This is during the Cenozoic era, during its early formation. And you know, explosive eruptions were pretty prominent around this time in the John Day, and also it looked a lot different than it did. We had some palm trees. We had horses with 3 toes. That's pretty cool. And we had a giant sloth. It wasn't quite this big, but you know, it was a pretty big sloth. And you know, obviously we don't really have that anymore. You know, John Day don't have the palm trees. It's like kind of a desert. That's kind of cool. Anyways, going into the Neogene era. Pretty cool. And now we're into the Quaternary era. This is the age of the current ice age, which happened 2.56 million years ago. Pretty cool. But like the Ice Age is this long, Earth is that old, that's pretty cool. This is a pretty small amount of time. And also, speaking of small amount of time, there's so much stuff that happens in this last million years, including Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens are actually like those little tiny 4 pixels. We've been around for about that long, and the Earth has been around for that long. So I mean, I think that's pretty cool. It's actually such a small amount of time that I had to make a whole different timeline. So now instead of each block being 1,000,000 years, this is just each block being 10,000 years. And this is the timeline of the last 1,000,000 years. So that little tiny block here, all of this stuff happened. Anyways, let's get into it. Okay, starting at 700,000 to 500,000 million years ago was the formation of Mount Hood. As most volcanoes do, it formed during volcanic eruptions because the North American plate is like doing some weird stuff with the Pacific plate, causes a lot of volcanic eruptions. Alright, the moisture from the oceanic plate goes down and then lowers the melting point of the material under the North American plate, which then rises and forms these cool little volcanoes. Alright, pretty cool. I like Mount Hood. I like skiing there. Anyways, also at 300,000 years ago is the earliest fossil of Homo sapiens we know about. Okay, so Homo sapien fossils. This was found in Jebel Irhoud. So, yeah, pretty cool right there. Anyways, now, doing in the last 300,000 or 30,000 years ago, not 300, humans first arrived in North America with the Bering Land Bridge, which is not really here today. Now it's just an ocean with a lot of ice. But back in the day, you could go from Russia, cross over the land bridge, and into North America. So, that's pretty cool. There's also a theory of the kelp highway, where there's like kelp on the side and they go over there. But the Bering Land Bridge is really like that's the prominent theory. Pretty cool. Alright, finally, we have the eruption of Mount Masma, which formed Crater Lake in Oregon. So that's pretty cool. This happened 7,700 years ago. And click to go to the volcano. Boom. Alright. Now I built a little bunker here because this is the volcano. I'm going to make a little recreation of what happened to Mount Masma around this time. It just completely blew off. Blew the top off. Anyways, let's get straight into it. Alright, this is Mount Masma. Pretty peaceful volcano, I would say. Nothing wrong with it. No, it's just a chill little guy. Oh, nah. Yeah, as you can tell, you would not want to be on Mount Masma during this time. It was a pretty big eruption. As you can see, yeah, like, not very good. I would not want to live here. Still going on. It was a big eruption, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, pretty crazy, honestly. Yeah. Okay, it's still. Oh. Okay. Oh. Yeah, it just completely destroyed it. Okay. Oh. Oh my god. Alright. Boom, boom, boom. Now, as you can see, we have a big crater here where the top of the mountain used to be. And over time, this crater, like rainwater and snowmelt, filled up the crater over time, creating a really big, beautiful lake known as Crater Lake. And that is the last event that is on my timeline. See you later. Catch you on the flip.